There are cameras like this one on public roads across North Carolina. They're license plate readers, and they read your license plate every time you drive by them. Police say they help solve crimes, but what about the data? And who decides how long they keep it? This camera right here is a flock safety camera. I used to never notice them, but since working on this story, I've seen them all over the place. There's no official database, but a website that tracks these cameras estimates there are about 1,800 in North Carolina. Fixed to a pole, it photographs every car that drives past, logs the plate, and runs it against a database of stolen vehicles and wanted individuals, all in seconds. More than 80 agencies in North Carolina have signed on. Nash County is one of them. The Sheriff's Office got these cameras in 2021, 5 across the county, plus access to cameras from Rocky Mount PD and other local agencies.
Gives a picture of the vehicle and a picture of the tag.
Chief Deputy Alan Wilson says one murder case shows exactly what the technology can do. A man killed his wife, then fled. A few days later, a license plate reader picked him up in Arizona, about 30 miles from the Mexico border.
Because he alerted on that license plate reader, we were able to contact the Arizona Highway Patrol, and they were able within less than 30 minutes find his vehicle and take him into custody, and then we were able to transport him back for trial.
And Chief Wilson says homicides are only part of the picture.
One of the biggest things they help us with is finding missing people, right? When you have amber alerts, when you have silver alerts, whether it's children that are being abducted or taken against their will from their family one way or another, we use LPR systems to help track them.
That's the case law enforcement makes, but every car that drives past one of these cameras is recorded, not just the people police may be looking for. And that's where some residents say the debate begins.
And then there's a second large neighborhood.
Bradley Pierce has lived in Pittsboro for 15 years. When the cameras started going up in his town, he started asking questions.
I love the police. I have no issue with the police. But when you start monitoring everybody's movement and mass surveillance, that severely erodes the trust in the police.
He's part of a group of residents who have been showing up to Board of Commissioners meetings, pushing for more public awareness about the cameras and what they collect.
The number one focus is to educate the public. Right now, even if they know that the camera exists, they don't really understand what it means to have that camera there.
Pittsboro police say the system was not designed for and cannot be used to monitor general traffic patterns, track individuals, or identify vehicle occupants. But the cameras are only part of the story. The data these cameras collect can also be shared with other law enforcement agencies. In some states, police departments have been documented running searches on behalf of federal immigration authorities. It's something that sparked controversy and prompted Flock Safety to pause direct federal access in 2025. These kinds of questions about data sharing are also coming up in communities right here in North Carolina. The town of Hillsborough approved Flock cameras in 2025. Installation had already begun when town leaders changed their minds, citing data sharing concerns. The board voted to terminate the contract. In a joint statement, the police chief and mayor said they believed in what the technology could do, but that privacy rights had to come first. Though North Carolina does have rules governing how this data gets used. State law requires written policies, annual audits, and that the data be deleted within 90 days. Misuse is also a criminal misdemeanor.
Deputies that receive this access to this license plate reader system, they have passcodes that they have to sign in, and we have an audit trail of anybody that's running and using this piece of equipment.
And departments can opt out of sharing their data with federal agencies.
So we had always chosen as a matter of policy, we will not share license plate reader data with ICE, HSI, entities that are using that data for the purposes of immigration enforcement.
For Chief Wilson, he wants concerned residents to think about what's at stake on the other side of this debate.
If it was one of your family members that went missing, one of your kids that went missing, you would want to use every tool in your power to bring your child back home or your family member back home. So with that, this is one tool, and it's a very valuable tool.
And Bradley Pierce says he doesn't doubt that. He just wants communities to make the decision with their eyes open.
I consider this a very bipartisan issue. However, just because me and my group believe they should be gone, that may not be everybody's opinion, but I would just like that opinion to be informed.
Communities across North Carolina are making this decision right now, weighing the public safety benefit with potential privacy concerns. Here with me now in studio is Jeff Welty, Professor of Law and Public Law and Government at the UNC School of Government, and Lauren Earnhardt, Deputy Executive Vice President of the North Carolina Sheriff's Association. Welcome to you both. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Lauren, let's start with you. Help me understand a little bit how the sheriffs that you work with, how they're using this technology.
Well, they're using it exactly like Chief Wilson said. They are using it for criminal investigations. They're using it to find missing people, missing children that are in vehicles, especially, we all see Amber Alerts on DOT signs looking for license tag numbers, types of car. This is just an amplified way for law enforcement to get access to what cars are on the road. They're also using it to corroborate stories. So if somebody, a witness or a defendant even says, I am not a part of this crime because I was at the grocery store, they will use the LPRs, the license plate readers, to see if that person was actually at the store, if there's a plate reader available.
So it's not just catching people, but it's also clearing individuals
Absolutely.
as well. Okay. Jeff, I know this isn't new technology. This has been around for quite some time, but what do you think is driving the conversation about this right now?
I think it's a couple things. The first is the technology is expanding. The number of cameras that are in different places is greater than it's ever been. The capability of the cameras is greater than it's ever been. Right? It's not just recording license plates now. It can tell the make and model of a vehicle. It's recording footage. And people who are concerned about privacy are more concerned about a more capable tool that's in more places. And then the other piece of the puzzle is the data sharing question. Recently, that's mostly been a question about whether these cameras are sharing data with ICE, but just interagency sharing in general is a consideration because different agencies have different policies about how they retain the data and how they use it. So I think they're fair questions to ask.
Now, we heard a little bit about some of the privacy concerns. What do the courts say about some of the claims that this might be a violation of Fourth Amendment or police need a warrant to execute these kind of captures of the license plate cameras? What will the court say about all that?
It's a super interesting legal question right now. So the baseline is that when people are out and about in a public place, law enforcement or anyone else is allowed to look at them and see them and write down their license plate or capture whatever information they want. We kind of assume the risk that people are going to see us when we go out on the public roads. At the same time, there are courts that have kind of questioned when do we cross some kind of line into a mass surveillance or a total surveillance situation. And the leading case there is a case out of Baltimore where the police department deployed a drone, a camera-equipped drone that circled the city 12 hours a day, every day, recording essentially everything that happened on the ground. And the court said that crossed the line, that's too much, that's not something that we can permit. People don't assume the risk of being recorded in that way. So far with the flock cameras, courts have said we haven't reached that point. It's more in the space of it's in the public's view. We assume the risk that we might be recorded. Whether we might someday reach that point of there being enough cameras with enough capabilities combined with other technologies to create a constitutional question, that remains to be seen.
The courts are keeping a close eye on it, I'm sure.
Yeah, there are people who are really interested in this who are presenting cases to the courts regularly. There was just one out of Norfolk, Virginia, 175 cameras deployed in Norfolk, and the court said that doesn't reach the level of being a kind of persistent surveillance situation, and it's permitted, doesn't require a warrant, program can continue.
Lauren, what's your advice to sheriffs who might be wrestling with this decision as to, they want to take advantage of this public safety tool, but they're also hearing from concerned residents about privacy concerns? What's your advice to law enforcement there?
Well, sheriffs in particular, they're elected, so they answer to the people in their community, in their county. And our state law requires that anybody who has a license plate reader, any state agency or local government agency, they have to have a policy in place with strict guidelines of who can access the data and how long the data is kept. And although the state law says 90 days is the limit at how long that data can be kept, 30 days tends to be about what's happening in a lot of the counties and a lot of the cities right now. They are limiting the data retention even more. And that makes some of the county residents feel better. The shorter amount of time is helpful to combat a fear of constant surveillance. Also, the sheriffs are very vocal about times that the LPRs are solving crimes and what they're finding and how they're using them to keep the community safe and to catch criminals who are on the run. And so that is the most impactful thing for the community to understand why that tool is being used and how it is limited for any privacy concerns.
Jeff, we talked a little bit about the state framework, some of the requirements. Is there anything else that North Carolina might be missing, maybe things other states might be doing to kind of help with some of these concerns?
Different states have definitely taken different approaches. If you look at the dozen or so states that have statutes about this, the period of time that they allow the data to be retained varies from as much as 150 days to 21 days or less. And as Lauren said, that the balance between the efficacy of the tool and the privacy concerns, one slider for adjusting that is the retention period. There's also states that have adopted different data sharing protocols than what we have in North Carolina. We have a system where agencies are essentially free to share their license plate data upon request with other law enforcement agencies. Some states have limited that and said that we don't share with out-of-state agencies or we don't share with federal agencies. Another possible consideration is as the cameras get better and record more data, our statute's from 2015. It really talks about the license plate data, but the cameras can record more than that. So I think there's a fair question whether at some point it makes sense to revisit the statute in light of the ways the technology has changed.
A lot has changed in those 11 years for sure.
Right.
Well, Lauren, Jeff, thanks for joining us. Thanks for your insight on this important topic. We appreciate it.
Thank you.